Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a story we all know, one we hear every Christmas. It's the story of a journey, a search for a place to rest, and ultimately, a rejection that led to one of the greatest miracles in history. We're talking about the moment Mary and Joseph arrived in Bethlehem, only to find there was no room at the inn. It's such a familiar line, right? Luke chapter 2 verse 7 says, "And she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them." We often gloss over that last part. No guest room available. But have you ever stopped to really think about what that means? Think about it. A young woman, far from home, about to give birth. And the answer she gets is, "Sorry, we're full." No room. It's a story of rejection, plain and simple. And it happens right before the miracle. This isn't just a minor detail in the Christmas story. It's a profound spiritual truth. Jesus' very first experience on earth, before he even took his first breath, was being turned away. He was born into a world that, at that moment, had no space for him. Why is this so important? Because it shows us something incredible about the heart of God. Jesus didn't arrive on a golden chariot, welcomed by kings and queens in a grand palace. He came into the world in the most humble, inconvenient, and overlooked way possible. He was born into rejection so that he could fully and completely understand our own experiences of it. Every single one of us has felt that sting. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the social circle you couldn't quite fit into, the moment you felt overlooked, misunderstood, or simply unwanted. That feeling of a door closing in your face is a universal human experience. And the Christmas story tells us that God is not distant from that pain. He entered right into it. From his very first moments, Jesus was acquainted with what it feels like to be on the outside looking in. He understands what it's like when the world says, "There's no room for you here." This is incredibly comforting. It means that when you're feeling hurt by rejection, you can turn to a Savior who gets it. He doesn't just sympathize from a distance. He has walked that road himself. He chose to. His earthly life began with no room, and it ended with many of his own people rejecting him. He knows the weight of it, the ache of it. So when you bring your hurt to him, you're not talking to someone who is unfamiliar with your struggle. You're talking to a friend who has been there. Now let's look at the second point. Closed doors don't stop God from opening the right one. The innkeeper, for whatever reason, said no. Maybe he was stressed, overworked, just didn't have the space. Whatever the case, that door was shut. For Mary and Joseph, that must have been a moment of panic, of desperation. Their plan A, maybe even their plan B and C had failed. They were out of options. But God was not out of options. The closed door of the inn wasn't the end of the story. It was a redirection. It led them to a place no one would have chosen, a place no one would have considered ideal, a stable, a place for animals. Yet this became the very place where heaven touched earth. The no from the innkeeper didn't thwart God's plan. In fact, it was part of it. This is a powerful lesson for our own lives. How many times have we been devastated by a closed door? We put all our hopes into a certain outcome, a specific opportunity, and when it doesn't happen, we feel like it's the end of the world. We think our story is over. But God's perspective is so much bigger than ours. What we see as a dead end, He sees as a divine detour. Think about the doors that have closed in your life. The promotion that went to someone else. The university that sent a rejection letter, the person who walked away. It hurts, absolutely. But what if that closed door is actually God protecting you from something you can't see? What if He is steering you away from a path that wasn't meant for you to guide you toward the one that is? The Bible is full of stories like this. Joseph was rejected by his brothers and sold into slavery. A series of closed doors that eventually led him to become the second most powerful man in Egypt, saving his family and an entire nation. David was rejected by his own father when Samuel came to anoint a king, but he was the one God had chosen. The closed door of the inn is a powerful reminder that human rejection can never overrule divine direction. God is always working, even when we can't see it. He can take our greatest disappointments and turn them into our greatest appointments. He's not limited by our circumstances or by other people's decisions. When one door closes, trust that He is busy opening the one He has prepared for you. It might not look like what you expected, but it will be right where you need to be. And that brings me to my final point. The greatest blessings often happen in unexpected places. No one would have picked a stable. It was smelly, dirty, and humble. It was the last place on earth you'd expect a king to be born. By human standards, it was a failure. A place of last resort. But in God's economy, it was the perfect stage for the greatest miracle in history. The stable represents something beautiful. It shows us that God doesn't need our polished, perfect, put-together spaces to show up. He is not waiting for us to have it all figured out. He is drawn to the humble, the overlooked, the messy places. The glory of God shone brightest not in a pristine palace but in a lowly manger. The shepherds, the lowest of the low in society, were the first to get the birth announcement. Not the religious elite, not the powerful leaders, but the simple, humble men in the fields. They were invited to witness the miracle in the stable. Why? Because God's kingdom turns the world's values upside down. What the world values, power, wealth, status, God often bypasses. He looks for humility, for open hearts, for those who recognize their need for Him. This is such good news for all of us. Do you ever feel like your life is a bit of a mess? Like you don't have it all together? Do you feel unqualified, unprepared, or unworthy for God to use you? Look at the manger. The Savior of the world was born in a place like that. Your messy life, your imperfect situation, your humble circumstances, that is not a disqualifier for God, it's an invitation. Sometimes we think we need to clean up our lives before we can come to God. We think we need to get our act together to present a perfect inn for Him to enter. But the Christmas story shows us the opposite. God is willing to meet us right where we are, in the stable of our lives. He can bring His greatest miracles into our most unexpected and even undesirable situations. The blessing wasn't in the inn, it was in the stable. The miracle happened in the place of rejection. So what does this mean for us today? It means we can reframe how we see rejection. When a door closes, instead of seeing it as a final no, we can learn to see it as a potential redirection from God. We can trust that He is in control, even when our plans fall apart. It also means we can stop trying to be perfect for God. We can come to Him with our mess, our brokenness, our failures, and know that He's not turned off by it. In fact, it's in those humble, lowly places of our hearts that He often does His most profound work. Just like He turned a feeding trough into a royal crib, He can transform the most broken parts of our stories into something beautiful for His glory. The story of no room at the inn is not a sad footnote. It's a message of hope. It's a reminder that Jesus entered our world of rejection to offer us ultimate acceptance. He was turned away so that we could be welcomed in. He was born in a lowly place to show us that no person and no situation is beyond the reach of His grace. This Christmas and all year round, when you feel the sting of a closed door, remember the stable. Remember that God's greatest work often begins where our plans end. The rejection was real, but the miracle was greater. And that same God is at work in your life, turning your rejections into resurrections, your messes into masterpieces, and your stables into sacred spaces. Thanks so much for watching. If this message encouraged you today, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever seen God turn a closed door into an unexpected blessing? Share your story. It might just be the encouragement someone else needs to hear. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video.